Here's a simple test that has helped hundreds of patients and given me great clinical confidence. Many of you may be familiar with this test, but it's always worthwhile to be reminded of things we know but sometimes forget to use. Because as the great artist and inventor Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Have you ever given a patient a nutrient or dietary change and they call back and say they feel worse? The question is it an allergic reaction to the food or supplement, or is it part of a detox reaction? The answer to that question can be easily determined by using the modified Coca Pulse test. The original test was developed by Dr. Arthur Coca, who was a board-certified allergist for over 40 years. He realized food sensitivities were real, but adequate tests were not available to evaluate them. Through trial and error, he found the body could detect whether the food was healthy or unhealthy. Dr. Coca recognized that as we ingest stressful agents, our sympathetic nervous system will react, and one of the ways we can measure that reaction is by pulse measurements. All the way back to the 1940s, Dr. Coca found that by using this test, he could help people with the following conditions: migraine headaches, dizziness, constipation, epilepsy, obesity, irritability, fatigue, sinusitis, hypertension, hives, and asthma. The way Dr. Coca did the test was to test one food at a time. He would have his patient take a baseline 60-second pulse test. Then, after the food was eaten, the patient would measure their pulse rates at 30, 60, and then 90 minutes after the individual food was eaten. It involved a total of 13 tests per day. It's very effective and precise, but not very realistic in today's times. However, the test was later modified by a group of naturopaths and is much more patient-friendly. Here are the basic guidelines for the modified version. Get a baseline pulse for a full 60 seconds. Taste one food or nutrient on the tongue for 30 seconds, which gives the body time to react. Don't swallow. Now, with the food or nutrient still in the patient's mouth, evaluate the nervous system reaction by remeasuring the pulse for a full 60 seconds. Be sure you do not take the pulse for 15 seconds and multiply by 4. If the ending score is 4 points higher than the initial reading, the food or nutrient is creating stress and should not be eaten. Retest in a week and see if it changes. Here's an example of how effective this test can be. A patient called me and was having a rapid heart rate and was concerned that it might be caused by the nutrients I suggested. He was actually kind of scared. I taught him the Coca Pulse test over the phone, and we tested all his nutrients and medications one at a time. We found the culprit was a medication reaction from something his physician had recently given him. Needless to say, he was greatly relieved when we found the cause. Sometimes I teach the technique as an office call, or sometimes I teach it over the phone, depending on the circumstances. I think over the years, I've done this test only a handful of times when it was the actual nutrient that caused the reaction. Most often, it was their diet or a detox reaction, which we easily fix by slowing down the protocol. And remember that some nutrients may seem to be pure and free of additives, metals, or binders, but they still may be present. Just because they're not on the label doesn't mean they're not in the bottle. You can find more information about the modified Coca Pulse test to the right. Included is a form you'll find helpful to use with patients. It has specific instructions in both doctor and patient-friendly language. I've also included a link to a Tuesday Minute we shared on food elimination strategies. It has some great ideas on systematically supporting the digestive process and how to add foods back into the diet. If you're curious about Dr. Coca's work, there's a link below to Amazon.com where you can buy Dr. Coca's book. Remember, the modified Coca Pulse test can be used with both nutrients and food. If you've never used it, try it. It's simple but effective, and it's easy for patients to do. Thanks for taking time to be with me today, and I look forward to being with you again next Tuesday.